It's quite amazing the difference in temperature when you're under the canopy in the woods. This area is kind of a newer growth area on the property. Some of the trees are probably no more than maybe 30 to 40 years, relatively speaking. There's a lot of things that limit a lot of the trees getting too big in this area because of the limestone, the shallow, the dirt content in the ground, the sloping of the contour of this gradation of this area. And in this area at one point, I believe, was backed up to an actual farm. I do believe they had cattle. And I'm not sure if some point that they had some of this cleared out, but this is quite interesting because just talking about the temperature differences, this is late summer right now. It's about 90 degrees out right now. And I can tell you just by looking over here, I'm not sure if you can see the change right now, but it is extremely sunny outside right now. Very bright, very brutally hot. The sun really does, you can feel it on your skin when you step out of this canopy. But look how shaded this is. I'm not saying that it's like 20 or 30 degrees difference in the shade, but it feels like it. I think the temperature is literally like 15 or so degrees different down in this shade, in this canopy. And it can be a lot more extreme than that. And when you're in a dense forest, there are some areas in the forest that you cannot see daylight. I know that sounds crazy. You will get a little bit of ambient lighting though in there. It's just the leaves filter all of the direct sunlight, and it is an amazing effect. And you probably have experienced this, hopefully, if you've been hiking in a national park or forest, some of the interesting types of environments that you find yourself in. It's almost like these micro little, cosmic type of environments that, are created. For example, like there's just little niches and little valleys and little like indentations in different parts of the landscape that have its own unique character. And some of them, just because of the way the trees grow or the type of trees, the cover of the canopy could be multi-layered. And of course, trees want to expand and grow, just like you can see right here, these little smaller sapling trees trying to push through the canopy to get some more of that light for photosynthesis. And so it is very difficult when you have a lot of trees in an area to thrive, because they're all competing against sunlight or competing for sunlight, for the nutrients and the soil, the water, everything. And so like this tree over here, if you get a lot closer, you'll see that it's approximately about 2 feet wide, just in diameter, just looking straight on. It's a little deceiving how small it looks on the camera. But that's definitely a tree that's been around a lot longer than, say, something like this one right here in front of me that is maybe like 1.5 inches to 2 inches. And so, you have this diversity in the landscape. And what's so cool is that the further you go back, like in my property, it's not so much you get a lot more bigger trees. There definitely are a lot more trees, but it's the density of the brush in general. And some of the brush is very tall, and the canopy is even thicker. And so if you think it's dark here, it is very dark back there. And I always wanted to tell people that, and this is just something to kind of just as a conversational thing, but especially if you're trying to mitigate heat issues in a severe summer or in your area that's really, really bad, and you don't have air conditioning or fans or any kind of infrastructure, maybe there's no electricity to power them, and besides using water to help evaporate heat off your body and loose and light breathing clothes and the things that we've talked about in the past, to help reduce core body temperature if you're overheating, you could always go into a deeper area of the woods and, clear a small area out. Take your time. Don't overheat doing that as well. But clear out a small little area and get close to the ground. Have a little air in between you and the ground. So have a small raised platform, but you don't want to, you could be in a hammock too. That could also be a nice aerated area to bring and move heat away from your body. But sometimes the actual floor is pretty cool to the touch. Let's touch it right here. And where there's light, you can definitely feel a lot more heat than in the places that are in the shade. And so just pick a nice deep place in the shade that's under cover. And And there you go, a nice place just to kind of get away, a little bit of respite from the heat and the sun. That's the main thing, when we're talking about trying to, control overheating in particular is staying out of direct sunlight. And while we all need, and it's healthy to have a little sunlight on our skin to create various vitamins and nutrients, there's also a point that you can overdo it. And when your body is not able to get rid of the excess heat, that's when you get into trouble. So you want various ways for it to allow the heat to evaporate. And if you don't have that, then you need a means to actually stay cooler so that your body doesn't need those means. So how do you view the canopies? Because there's like different levels of canopy, just like this new growth here or the saplings. And their canopy kind of stops at maybe the 15 to 25 feet range, and then you have the 35 to 40 feet canopies, and then you have like the 50 to 60 feet. And if you go way back more in the property, there's like 80 to 100 foot plus canopies. So it's not unusual to have different stratospheres within a canopy system within a woodland area. And it's so interesting. And there's, I think there's so much to learn about this, especially if you were to live near like a jungle. You could see this in such a obvious fashion. I've read a lot about it. I don't personally live next to a jungle at all. Obviously, I live in the United States. I don't think we actually have any official jungles per se. We have obviously forest and park systems, and so and those actually have some amazing ecosystems that could be in some sense equal to possibly like a jungle environment, but for the most part, a lot of people try to assess locations when they set up, like base camp and so forth, with these things in mind about how this environment is going to help regulate core body temperatures, especially in the summer if it's really, really hot. That's why most people like to be near a water source for number one. Number two, they like to be maybe in a slightly lower type of altitude, not on the top of a hill, not kind of in the middle, even though that's not too bad, though. In the middle is typically the best, for most of the year around. But if you're looking to cool down, you want to go lower in the valley, closer to where the water source is, and that'll give you more relief. And so also to be in the shade and under the canopy, lots of different techniques. And so if you have techniques that you would like to share, feel free to share those in the comment section. As always, you guys take care.